Hi, I'm Bob Lobel. This is another New England sports legend. Boy, we go way back with this one. John Smith, great field goal kicker for the New England Patriots. And of course, when I think of John Smith, I think of the snow game and the snow plow. But there was so much to your career. How did you get here? Who went after you in England or wherever the hell you were? Who went after you, and what were you doing when they found you?
Well, originally I came over here coaching on a camp in Western Massachusetts. It was an 8-week camp, and I was teaching soccer out there. When I was 15 years old, I could turn pro soccer in England with 3 different teams, but I wanted to go to university and get an education, then turn pro. So I was out in the Pittsfield area for 3 years, 3 summers. And a boy at my camp from Cleveland brought a football up to the soccer field. And he said, "Can you show me how to kick it? There's a guy playing for the Giants called Gogolak who kicks soccer style." I said, "What the heck, put it down, I'll kick it over the post." Because I played rugby in England, I could have played top rugby. It's a very similar looking ball. So I did that. There was a gentleman at the camp called Jack Rowan, basketball coach for Columbia University, because basketball was the biggest sport there. After he saw me kick and he said, "You should have a go at this." I said, "What?" I had no clue. I'd never seen an American football game, didn't have an idea about the game. So at the end of the summer, this was 1972, end of the summer, I went down to see my auntie who lived in New Jersey, my dad's sister who married a GI during the war. So I went down to see her, and this Jack Rowan lived in New Jersey. He said, "On the way to the airport, can you stop by and I'll have a guy watch you kick and I'll put you back on the plane." So I did that, went back to England. I graduated from university December 1972. I get a letter. It says New York Jets. I open it and they said, would I come over for a tryout with the New York Jets to kick field goals? Now that was the middle of the English soccer season and I was leaving college, so I was playing semi-pro, like playing for Pawtucket in baseball. I was playing semi-pro in the winter and I was going to play full pro in the summer when the next season started. So I wrote back and said, "Well, no, thanks very much. I really don't know what you're talking about. And I'm going to be playing pro soccer in the summer. I'm getting married in June. Thanks very much." Figured that was it. First week in May, what am I, 22 years old, I can run in my sleep, I'm in such good shape, and I get a phone call on a Tuesday night. Now I lived in a little tiny village called Milton under Wychwood, way out in the boondocks. And this guy calls me on a Tuesday night, he says, "There's a ticket for you at the London airport at the TWA desk for Thursday morning. Can you be here for a 4-day tryout with the New England Patriots?" This guy was a friend of Jack Rowan's, who was an agent for basketball players. His name was John Liam. So I said, we're getting married June 2nd, I called my girlfriend Vivian and said, "Vivian, there's a Yank on the phone. He wants me to go over and kick field goals." She said, well, go over for the weekend, eat steaks, and come back for the wedding. So that was it. I came over, I end up at Logan, couldn't remember the name of the team. I'm walking around Logan, hoping somebody picks me up. Guy picks me up and takes me to the Holiday Inn in Dedham, puts me up there. I said, "Well, I want to see where we're going." He said, "Well, it doesn't start till tomorrow." I said, "Well, take me there. I want to know what's going on." So that was the first tryout that they had for coach from Oklahoma.
Yeah,
just died.
Fairbanks.
Coach Fairbanks. First tryout he had when he came from Oklahoma. There were about 100 people there, about 10 kickers. We started out, and nobody told me about a snap and a hold. I had no clue. They just held it, and I kicked it. So the first day, I was the worst of 10. And by Sunday, I got it figured out, and I was the best of 10. And they said to me, "Well, can you stay till next weekend when we bring in the veterans?" A guy called Charlie Gogolak, #1 draft pick from the Washington Redskins they brought in, and another gentleman from England who was called Mike Walker and won a competition in England as the best kicker in England. Superfoot. Yeah. So I said, called my wife, yeah, stay another week. So I stayed another week, kicked against those guys, and on the Monday, I figured, I'm leaving, that's it. They asked me to sign a contract. I said, "Well, thanks very much, but let me tell what I'm going to do." And there's an English writer thinks this is the funniest thing he's ever heard. I'm going back to England. I'm getting married in 10 days. I'm going on honeymoon, and I'll call you. You imagine somebody saying that
Right.
in the NFL. So they said, well, we'll send a ticket for your wife too to come over. We'll send a ticket for both of you to come over for training camp at UMass. And so I actually took a football. I went on honeymoon to Yugoslavia. It was then a communist country, but they were trying to open up. But it was a cheap place, and I had just left college. I had about $200 in my pocket. And we went on honeymoon, took a football with me, and I played soccer with the Yugoslavians behind the hotel and had them hold a ball for me so I could kick it.
Amazing.
That was
What a story.
Yeah.
I mean, certainly you were on the cutting edge. The Gogolaks, yourself, your Premians, all these guys were now invading the National Football League because the Lou Groza style kickers, the toe kickers, the Tom Dempsey toe-on kickers, I mean, that was it. That was the way the Americans kicked field goals, but they found a better way.
Yeah, we call those guys dinosaurs.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
Being a dinosaur myself, I understand how we used to roam the earth, but that was a better way, and it was an interesting thing. And now look at you. I know you said, is it okay to wear your soccer equipment? But no, you've made an industry. John Smith, entrepreneur, stay in America, come up with, you have your own little cottage industry here, and it's all about teaching.
That's right. Well, all I wanted to be was an elementary school teacher. I love working with kids. So even when I was with the Patriots and playing every day, I would be out teaching at youth soccer programs in the evenings because that's what I like doing. So it's always been my love, and I was able to start my own camps, and I did clinics for 20 years for the Boston Globe, the Worcester Gazette, the Providence Journal, all over New England.
If there's one man who literally single-handedly tried to promote the growth of soccer, certainly in our little corner of the world, it's this guy. So, I mean, that's you've been a lone ranger out there, voice in the dark.
Yep.
Have you made
There's
progress?
a lot of good players now.
Have you made progress?
Yes, we have. I mean, we now have a youth program which is growing every year. We have 60% of the players are girls. Girls soccer in America is absolutely superb. I had 3 daughters. My oldest daughter was All-American, and they all played soccer and had fun. But American girls, best in the world. Won 4 championships already, 2 gold medals, 2 World Cups. And American girls are the best in the world, and the men are striving to get there.
My kind of feeling is that the American women are going to maintain most of the interest as the years go by, and that the American men will never get to that level. But that's another, I want to get to that in a minute. I want to go back to the football moments. And after a while, and I can't, John, I just don't remember, and you're going to have to fill me in here, how many years you played with the Patriots? How many, did you understand the game after a while? Did you miss any really important kicks? Did you make any really important kicks?
Yeah.
It has to be
Well,
yes to
I
both.
played for 10 years.
See, that's a long time.
I played for 10 years. I made All-Pro once, and I was alternate twice. I led the league in scoring twice, but I don't remember all the figures because I just don't remember those things. As
Go
far
ahead,
as
I'm just turning
kicks,
this stupid phone.
I think my first year, I actually was a Steeler for 5 days.
Really?
Yeah, and my first year of playing in the NFL, I get to play against the Steelers and beat them by 3 points at Pittsburgh, which was a big game. Yeah, what happened was my first training camp, after a week, they cut me because I had no clue what was going on. I didn't understand the game.
Right.
So what they did was they did a deal. It was 2 Irishmen, Mr. Sullivan and
Rooney.
and Rooney's.
Yeah.
So they traded me to the Pittsburgh Steelers because at that time, the last team to cut you had the last opportunity to pick you up. And the Patriots were the worst team, so they had the first chance to pick me up.
Okay.
So I go to Pittsburgh. From Monday through Friday, I kick against Roy Girella, the best kicker in the league. I didn't know his contract was up. Wasn't signing his contract. I kicked against Roy Girella every day, and I beat him every single day in stats. Friday, he signed his contract. Saturday, they cut me and sent me back to Boston. It was a good deal. So then I ended up playing for the minor league for a team in Boston, in Foxborough, and stayed with the team, and then made the team the following year at 74. But as far as games,
Do you remember the biggest kick you ever made?
well, I think people people equate the snowplow kick game as the biggest kick I ever made.
I remember that game. It was against
But-
Miami, and it was nothing, and it was in a huge snowstorm. And Ron Meyer, everybody thought Ron Meyer sent the Mark Henderson out on the snowplow, but it wasn't.
Grogan did.
Steve Grogan did. Right?
Steve's my best buddy.
Steve Grogan sent.
Yep.
What did he say? What happened? How did that all transpire?
Well, it came down to the last minute and a half of the game, and Steve comes to the sideline. He's my best buddy. He says, Smitty, how close I got to get you? I said, Steve, you got to get me about inside 40. But I said, we got to have a timeout because the problem is not the snow, it's the ice underneath when you take the snow off. So we have to dig it out. So he said, okay. So he goes out there, gets me in range, comes running to the sideline, and he was the guy that sent the plow out. Now the plow was going every 5 yards all game, non-stop, because it was a nor'easter. You couldn't see anyone.
It was big, yeah.
So it was no big deal. The big deal was having the lineman dig out the area where I was going to come in and stand to kick the ball. Then I was digging out the area where I would start my run, and we were digging with our cleats trying to get the ice out underneath the snow.
Right.
So I'm digging out one area. Matt Kavanaugh's digging out the other area. I had a couple of linemen on either side.
Kavanaugh's the holder.
He's the holder. All of a sudden, this tractor comes by. He's supposed to go right there.
Yeah.
He veers in between
Right.
me and Matt Kavanaugh. Matt Kavanaugh's swearing at the son of a gun because he's sweeping snow on the area he just cleared up.
Yeah.
Sweeps snow on me. Matt gets him out of the way. We kick the ball, goes through the uprights, get in the locker room, and all the press are talking about the guy on the tractor.
Mark Henderson work
Yes.
release program.
That's
He
right.
was,
15 years armed robbery.
he was,
Yeah,
he was,
that's
he
right.
was. But boy, he could drive a tractor.
Yes.
That was not his escape vehicle, apparently.
So the Dolphins coach,
Yeah, Don Shula.
Don Shula, was absolutely
livid.
I'm
putting the words in your mouth
He
because-
was livid.
Livid.
Very upset. But their kicker had missed, I think, 2 or 3 kicks where he'd slipped.
It was impossible to play, impossible to kick.
It was tough if you didn't get the ice out.
So you think it was a moment. There's no question. It was defined many times in New England sports, and you were a huge part of that because you won the game 3-0. So
Well, it got us into the playoffs.
see, there you go. It was a big kick.
It was
Was
a
that
big
the biggest kick?
Well, that was a pretty big kick. But
Yeah.
I think beating the Steelers in their home base was an important game, 30-27. I kicked 5 field goals and we beat in San Diego and we won 15-12. I think it was 15-12. And I kicked 5 field goals, and at that time that was a record. So that was a pretty good day.
John.
I don't remember a lot more of them. I just remember after that Miami game, because it was such a thing, we went down to Miami to play in Miami, and we get down there, and at the end, in the end zone, there's a big pile of snow with a guy on a tractor in a prison outfit.
Yeah.
And all the crowd would just boo. Every time I kicked into and warmed up, the crowd would boo me. So I had fun with it. I'd kick into the net, turn around and go like this, and they'd boo. I'd kick into the net, turn around, I'd go like this. Yes. And we didn't win that game, but I kicked a couple of field goals in it. But that was hilarious. The owner of the Miami Dolphins had the snow made in the end zone.
So I remember it like it was yesterday, and so do you. But I would also say that you must have at some point stopped and said, "What am I doing here? Why am I'm in America? I'm not in my native country. I'm not playing the sport I grew up with. What am I doing here, and how did I get here?" And once you've answered those questions, you stayed.
Well, the first year I was over here, obviously I was learning the game. And I would go see some college games in the area and learn the game. And I really loved the game. And I had some great friends over here. Steve Grogan was my best buddy. And so, I mean, he's a genius at the game. The guy's got an IQ of about 150, and he's like amazing in this game. So he would help me out. So it didn't take me long to pick it up. And once I picked it up, I became an avid fan.
Not baseball fan.
No, football fan. I loved the game. And in fact, I did British television for 4 or 5 years after I left.
That's right. I remember that.
And I was the English Bob. And
no, you were.
Yeah.
You might have been the English tailor.
Yeah, for a number of years.
Don't say Lolly. Alexis Lolly. You were the English Bob. That's pretty good. I like that.
So now when the Patriots go over to England, and they've been over in the last few years twice,
That's right.
Mr. Kraft takes me over, and I'm like their ambassador, and I do
I
all
went
the
the
work.
last trip. Yeah, I was
Yeah.
there with the last trip.
I do the work with a lot of the BBC and the radio, and do events, and I actually got to speak at the House of Commons for Mr. Kraft.
Wow.
It was awesome.
Just a little kid from where was that town?
Milton under Wychwood.
Who knew,
A
right?
little tiny village with 50% of them were Smiths. They've been there since the 13th century, and I was the first one to leave the village, I think.
Right. It's not where Waking Ned Devine was filmed, but that was in the Isle of Man. However, that's another story for another time. So you've had a fantastically interesting life, an extremely successful one. And now you're passing, and you've got camps. It's summertime. Merrimack is where you're going today.
Yeah.
And by the way, you have nice legs. I would just point that out. I just thought I ought to mention that. And then Olin College. So these are where your primary bases of operation are today in
For
the
camps
summer.
in the summer,
The
yeah.
summer. How many camps do you run in the summer?
We run camps we've already run, this is our 4th week. We start at the end of June, and we go right way through to the end of August.
How do you
And,
get into one of John Smith's camps if your kid's, of course your kid's a soccer player. Everybody's kid's a soccer player.
Well, you can just go online, johnsmithsoccer.com, and sign up online. I have an indoor soccer center in Milford that I built in 1988. First indoor soccer center in the country. And everybody said I was crazy about that, but it's still going. So I have a lot of good people that work for me and help me.
So this is a year-round endeavor.
Oh, year-round. Yep, we have a club with 30 teams in the fall and the spring. We train the players, and then we have the indoor to train in the winter, and then the camps in the summer. So I think I'm probably the first year-round soccer business in the country because I was able to cover all.
You were a pioneer.
facets.
There's no question whether it was kicking in the National Football League. You told me one story about going to Fenway Park. What was that story? Maybe you should share that.
Well, I went to Fenway Park in 1974, and I got to the 7th inning and decided that wasn't the sport for me and left, and I really haven't been back. I
Really?
don't think there was, no. I mean, people over here talk about 0-0 goals in soccer, but that was a 0-0 game in baseball, and it wasn't too exciting. So I haven't cottoned on to baseball, but I love American football. And so really I'm a soccer football guy, because in England we call it football.
I understand. I also am certain, through my own meager coaching background, that there were skills performed in the World Cup tournament, and especially by the Germans, that you would love to see incorporate in up-and-coming American soccer players. What did the Germans have that the others didn't have, and what did the Germans have that you'd like to translate into American soccer players?
Well, the Germans are very specific and they're very disciplined when they play the game of soccer. Soccer is a game of first touch. When the ball comes to you, if you can control it with one touch and get it on the ground and lift your head, you can then become what I call an independent creative decision maker, which is what a soccer player is. So then you have a decision to make, and you have to make it pretty quick before the other team steals it. So every team in the world had good skills controlling and passing the ball. Over the last 5 years, the Spanish and the Brazilians have dominated because they have a good touch and they keep the ball all the time. They play possession all the time. What the Germans did was they kept possession, but they penetrated into the offensive third and attacked quickly with numbers. And they also did what we call, they attacked high. They stole the ball in the defensive end of the Brazilians. Whereas in the past, a lot of teams have just dropped back into defense, like in basketball, where you can drop back and play zone and let them come at you. The Germans don't do that. They attack, steal the ball, and say, okay, we're going to steal it in their half, and then we're going to score.
Well, I'd like to re-explain exactly what John said, but we don't have time. And were they that good? Were the Germans that disciplined? But isn't that a
Yes.
cultural thing? Just by nature, the Germans, we've learned, are disciplined.
They are. It is a cultural thing. They really don't have any stars. They have probably 20 players on their team, and they're all really good.
Isn't that interesting?
And that's how they train them, and they train them
And
to be a team.
everybody else has stars. Everybody else has the Ronaldos, the Messis, and you go right down the line, stars.
Yep.
But
They train to get a team ready, and they get a squad ready. They get 22 players, and they can just take one out and bring one in. And
I know stars, I guess they're the ones with the greatest ability, but do stars Is that the way to go, to find stars, or is it the way to
No.
go to be disciplined?
It's it's the ultimate team game, soccer. It allows for people of all types of ability to be able to mesh together and work together as a team. And it's very hard physically. So you have to play as a team. You have to play as a team.
All right.
And the Germans proved it.
Now, if I said, and if I put my hand on your shoulder here, would you know how to flop? Would this be like the biggest, foul that I could possibly make?
A dive?
You dive, flop.
That upsets me in the game because I was a centre forward, a goal scorer, and I used to get beat up by the defense and whatnot, but I never hit the ground. But nowadays they hit the ground too quickly. And
it's a whole skill.
it is.
They go to school to learn how to hit the ground.
They do. They definitely do. They go to the Shakespearean Actors Association, and they're pretty good at it.
They are pretty good at it, but it takes away, to me,
it takes away the fun of the game.
Yeah.
Especially in the penalty area when they get a penalty hit, it's really cheating.
they all have the same facial expressions. Like there was one penalty that ended up costing somebody a game.
The first game, Brazil.
Yeah.
Ended up. It was 1-1. I think they got their first goal from a penalty where the centre forward, I've forgotten his name right now. Who it was? The centre forward dived, and it was everybody knew it was a dive, and the referee got caught. But it's tough refereeing the games. It's so fast.
No. And and these guys, the expression on their face is exactly the same.
Yeah.
One gets hit, it's the same expression as another getting hit. Granted, there are, like Neymar, he's okay, broke. It happens. This is like the boy that cried wolf. Once an injury happens, like his, everybody thinks he took a dive, and you can't take him seriously. But here's a guy who has a broken vertebrae, and he does have a serious injury. But it's a fascinating and an unwelcome part of the sport. But they're good at it. I'm telling you, they must love talking about it after the game, about the dive that they must talk about that, how funny those dive, right? This is part of their culture.
They must do, but to me now, I think they have to stop it. I think they have to look at the games afterwards, and they have to look at the players that are doing it, and they have to fine them heavily, and they have to actually ban them from some games. They've got to stop it because it's going to get ridiculous and so hard for the referees. You can't control it.
Well, I would say this, in listening to the broadcasters, I thought the broadcasters were very honest and very straight down the middle and very quick to point out mistakes. It's not like here when broadcasters are loath to identify a player that made a mistake or what the mistake was. There it was very open, very honest, and very straight. So there's some really good parts about that, but the diving, no.
No.
Yeah.
But I've got some hockey friends, and they say it's starting in hockey now.
Yeah, totally.
They're starting to do it in hockey now.
Yeah.
Like it's the same sort of game, but you're on ice and same thing. You put the puck in the goal, same as soccer. But
Here's my last question, John. We could really talk for a long time about this, but once again, every time you sit next to a soccer aficionado, you say, as if you knew, how soon will it be before the U.S. is figured in the same league as the Germans, Spain, Argentina, Brazil, world class, year in, year out, soccer, every 4 years, national soccer program. I say it's not going to happen. I hope you prove me wrong.
Well, I've been here 40 years, and for 40 years I've been saying that soccer's the next sport here and it's going to take over, and it's taken that long, and the U.S. team did really well getting through their group, and they played well. They only lost 1-0 to Germany, which is the top team. But you could see by the skill level when they played against Belgium and the number of shots that Belgium had on goal and how good our goalkeeper was, that we weren't quite there as far as what we call the techniques, the skills. It's going to happen, but it's going to take a few more years because we have to get the qualified licensed coaches. The problem is over here, there's a lot of people that are involved in soccer, but there's not a lot of them that have licenses and understand the game enough to be able to take those youngsters from 5 and 6 years old through to high school age and into college. But also the pro league has to change. Everywhere in the world, I could have turned pro at 15 years old with 3 teams. At 15, you turn pro, you sign a contract till you're 18. The pros take on 20 players. By you're 18, they cut 10. It's very competitive. Over here, they're going to high school and college. Whereas in the rest of the world, they are competing at 15, 16, 17
The
years
whole
old.
system is...
The system has to change.
It's not... I see
and
that.
the MLS has to be able to provide more money to the players if they're going to be able to attract good players from around the world.
I think it's well-meaning, but it's ill-constructed. The system is not conducive to doing what we said we'd like to have happen. But it is what it is. Besides the fact, John, as you well know, with 3 daughters, there are so many different things to choose from, whether it's lacrosse or football or baseball or tennis or blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
There's just, and in your sport, and I'll say that I never had a chance to play soccer. Never, not growing up in Ohio, was an alien concept. Perhaps not now. Lacrosse was an alien concept. However, I think the key is they're not, while they're participating in high school, the next level is what? College. I don't know how you change that, John. I don't know how your daughters did it.
I wouldn't change that because I like the system and I like the fact that you can go to an American college over here and play a sport that you enjoy and play at college level. But there's going to be another system because what's going to happen is the MLS teams are going to start, I think they've already started, if you play for their academy in the MLS and you are selected at 15, 16, 17 years old to play on their training program, you have to sign a contract where you cannot play at high school. And if you go to college, you belong to that team, so you're owned by them if they train you all the way through. So the system's going to change, and what's going to happen is a lot of the top players at 15, 16, 17 years old are going to end up in Europe in their training programs.
JohnSmithSoccer.com, is that what we're talking about?
Yes, sir.
That's the way, John Smith Soccer, one word.
Yep, professional coaches.
.com. Yeah, this is great. Well, I'm happy you had a chance to come in. I really have missed
Thank
talking
you.
to you. Yeah, this is, okay. We actually live in the same town, and I haven't seen him in like 30 years. Okay, that's one thing. Do you know how difficult it is to call information on the telephone and say, John Smith? Please find John Smith. All right, that's, at least I got you here, right?
Yeah.
John Smith.
It's a tough name.
You know what? Some enterprising operator, after I called about 8 John Smiths, and that's not me. Nope, that's not me. I got him. Thanks, buddy.
Thanks, pleasure.
Yeah, best of luck and continued success with the camps and your promoting of this great sport. I'm Bob Lobel, New England Sports Legends. Thanks for being with us.